Assalamu alaikum, how are you all? This is Rehan Rafeek, and today we'll be doing our second chapter for economics, IGCSE and O levels, and that is factors of production, one of the most important topics of economics, even in business, but especially in economics. All right, so let's start with the factors of production. That's chapter number 2 that we are starting with. So, in factors of production, if we talk about it, it is what do we refer to when we talk about factors of production, right? That's an important question. A lot of students are unable to understand the main definition of factors of production. Factors of production hai kya cheez? How do we talk about it? How do we define factors of production? So the first thing that we'll be doing is factors of production definition. All right, factors of production. So in economics, we've talked about, in our first chapter, we've always talked about the resources available, the limited resources available that are required to fulfill the unlimited needs and wants, especially of consumers, right? And for all economic agents. So what are these resources actually? We refer to resources many a times, constantly. We refer to scarcity in the first chapter. What is scarcity? Scarcity क्या है? Scarcity है limited resources. तो वो कौन से resources हैं जो limited है? वो जो resources, जिन limited resources की हम बात करते हैं back and forth, those resources are actually the factors of production, जिसको हम लोग properly categorize करते हैं into 4 main categories. So technically we have 4 main factors of production. But ज़्यादातर students एक गलती ये करते हैं कि वो directly 4 categories पे चले जाते हैं. What are factors of production? तो there are 4 factors of production: land, labor, capital, enterprise. Yes, those are the 4 factors of production. But resources क्या होती हैं? Factors of production की definition क्या है? That is very important to know. So we'll be writing the definition of factors of production. So what are those? Basically, what is the definition? It refers to what? It refers to the resources. So we'll just quickly write it out. Factors of production. These are the resources available. The resources available to produce goods and services. So these are the resources available to produce goods and services, or are required to produce goods and services. And obviously the resources which are available to produce the goods and services are limited, right? So remember, factors of production refer to the resources, all right? So now we'll be moving towards the types of factors, right? So types of factors पे आते हैं हम लोग. Types of factors of production. This is a very simple chapter, but I don't want you to ignore this chapter. I want you to see each and every part of this lecture, because every factor, land, labor, capital, enterprise, even if you think you know about it, even if you think it's very easy, have a second thought, because sometimes a lot of students, even in O levels, when they learn it in grade 9s or 10s, whenever they're starting, at the end, near the CIEs, in grade 11s, they end up messing it up. मतलब अक्सर लोगों को लैंड लेबर की प्रॉपर डेफिनेशन नहीं पता होती है, वो ग्रेड 11s में होती है. सो यू नीड टू एक्चुअली नो द राइट थिंग. मतलब इट्स नॉट द लिटरल मीनिंग, राइट? इट हैज़ अ प्रॉपर डेफिनेशन. सो टाइप्स ऑफ फैक्टर्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन. सही है. सबसे पहले जो है हमारे पास कितने टाइप्स हैं हमारे पास? Everyone knows about it. It's a very common thing. So 4 factors of production. How many factors? Types of factors में सबसे पहले हमारे पास overall 4 factors हैं. उसमें सबसे पहले जो है हमारे पास जो factor है वो है land. Land, right? So what is land actually? Land है क्या? Land refers to all the natural resources which are used to produce goods and services. Basically here we are referring to the natural resources available, right? So बहुत simple definition लिखनी है इसकी. Land, so this is all the natural resource required to produce goods and services. Okay, when we say producing goods and services, it refers to generating economic activity. तो अगर हम लोग goods and services की बात करें, required to produce goods and services, so we are even talking about generating economic activity at the same time. It means the same thing. So this is all the natural resource required to produce goods and services. For example, what could be the example over here? For example, क्या होगी land की example? Coal, oil, gas, minerals, fish, right? Fish is even part of land because it's coming and it's used as a natural resource, right? And then we'll put etc over there, etc, right? So land is completed. Land, this is all natural resource required to produce goods and services. For example, coal, oil, gas, minerals, fish, etc, right? So if you write this definition, this is fine for land. This is all natural resource required to produce goods and services. Number 2 that we're doing right now is labor. ठीक है, तो labor का भी एक मसला है. A lot of students get this wrong कि भाई labor actually क्या है. लेबर लोगों के आप नॉर्मली कॉन्सेप्ट आता है माइंड में जब भी लेबर की बात करते हैं, वो पाकिस्तानी माइंडसेट स्पेशली हमारा हम सबका ये माइंडसेट होता है कि वो लेबर मज़दूर की बात हो रही है यहाँ पे. बट वी डोंट अंडरस्टैंड दैट लेबर इज़ नॉट अ पर्सन that we are referring to right now. Labor is the work that they put in. How do they put in the work? They put in the work, or they're putting in basically the effort behind the work, right? So labor is not the person himself or herself. Labor is not the worker. A lot of people define labor, common mistake. Labor क्या है सर? Workforce है. Labor workers हैं. Labor are the workers in an organization. Wrong. That is a wrong concept, right? Labor refers to the effort they put in to complete the work, and especially what kind of effort? The mental and physical effort. Like I'm teaching you right now, I'm putting in a mental effort, right? And I'm putting in a physical effort. मैं mental effort भी लगा रहा हूँ और physical effort भी लगा रहा हूँ. तो ये basically दोनों क्या है, मिलाकर combine होकर labor perform कर रहे हैं, right? So labor is not just a worker. और एक और रॉन्ग कॉन्सेप्ट कि भाई लेबर जो है, जो चलो अगर मेंटल और फिजिकल एफर्ट भी है तो लेबर इज़ ओनली पुट इन बाय वर्कर्स और वर्कर्स एट अ लोअर लेवल. तो लेट मी क्लियर दिस थिंग टू यू दैट लेबर इज़ पुट इन बाय CEOs एज वेल ऑफ एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन और इवन द हाई लेवल ऑफ मैनेजमेंट. वाई? बिकॉज डायरेक्टर्स लेवल पे भी लोग अपना मेंटल, और डायरेक्टर लेवल पे CEO लेवल पे भी लोग अपना मेंटल और फिजिकल एफर्ट लगा रहे हैं. इफ समवन इज एन ओनर ऑफ अ बिजनेस, दे पुटिंग इन देयर एफर्ट, राइट? अगर वो ओनर है कोई और वो बिजनेस एक्टिविटी या इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी में काम कर रहा है, कंडक्ट कर रहा है, तो वो भी पार्ट ऑफ लेबर परफॉर्म कर रहा है, that person, that owner of the business, right? So whoever is putting in mental and physical effort, right from the lowest level of the staff till the highest level of the highest position in the organization, which is the CEO, all of them, if they're working in the organization and contributing towards producing goods and services, in terms of putting mental and physical effort, they are performing labor, right? So इसकी definition बहुत simple है. Labor is all the mental and physical effort put in order to produce goods and services. All right? So this is labor for you. Then we have number 3, a very important one, and that is capital. Now for capital, I always endorse you remembering the definition for land. Capital क्या है? बहुत सारे लोग, again common mistakes. Capital, sir, capital is money. Capital, money invested. Capital, sir, वो investment को कहते हैं capital. No. So in economics or business, capital has a proper definition. It's not just money invested, or capital does not just mean investment, right? It is basically referring to all the man-made resources that is gathered in an enterprise, right? Which is obviously confined and put to produce goods and services, or we can say invested as well, right? So capital is all the man-made resource. What was land? All the natural resource. Capital is all the man-made resource, is all the man-made resource required to produce goods and services. ऑलराइट, अच्छा, तो अब ये कैपिटल हो गया. अब इसकी एग्जांपल्स क्या होंगी? सिर्फ पैसा होगा? नहीं, मनी भी होगा. इट विल रिक्वायर मनी, इट विल इंक्लूड मनी. मैन मेड रिसोर्स है, मनी इज़ अ मैन मेड रिसोर्स. लेकिन और भी सारे फैक्टर्स जो कि हम लोग गैदर करते हैं टू स्टार्ट और रन अ बिजनेस और टू जनरेट एन इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी, वो सब क्या है? कैपिटल. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, we need a machine to run a business, right? For my classroom, I have a board at my back. This is my capital. I have my air conditioner. I have my chairs. I have my iPad. All of these things are capital for my business, for my teaching services, right? So similarly, हर business का एक ना एक कोई कुछ ना कुछ capital होता है. जैसे for example, restaurant का उनकी chairs, tables, even the premises they're working in. All businesses have to have a premises where they work. राइट, जो उनका ऑफिस होता है या उनकी फैक्ट्री है या जो भी लोकेशन है, स्टोर है, वो सब, वो क्या, व्हाट डू वी कॉल इट? वी कॉल इट अ प्रेमिसेस, एंड दैट इज पार्ट ऑफ कैपिटल. येस, बिकॉज इट्स अ मैन मेड रिसोर्स. अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल कंफ्यूज दैट एज लैंड. नो, लैंड बहुत सारे लोग समझते हैं लैंड जो वो जगह है जहाँ काम करते हैं हम लोग. नहीं, राइट. लैंड इज, आई टोल्ड यू, द प्लेस वेयर वी एक्सट्रैक्ट नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज फ्रॉम, right? So when that is basically used to produce goods and services, and that comes under land. So capital में क्या है? As I told you, money is an integral part of capital. Money is part of it. It's a man-made resource. उसके साथ साथ जिस फॉर्म में भी हम कैपिटल ला रहे हैं, जैसे कंप्यूटर्स, मशीनरी, मोटर व्हीकल, इन्वेंट्री, ये सारे एग्जाम्पल्स हैं, राइट? सो यू कैन राइट द एग्जाम्पल. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, money itself is capital. मशीनरी, ऑलराइट, और क्या हो सकता है? मोटर व्हीकल्स, इन्वेंट्री जो आप खरीदते हो बेचने के लिए. मनी, मशीनरी, मोटर व्हीकल्स, इन्वेंट्री कुड बी ऑफ रॉ मटेरियल्स और फिनिश्ड गुड्स, fixtures and fittings, computer, anything, right? So I'm just writing fixtures and etc, all right? So ये टाइप्स हो गए फैक्टर्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन के 3. अब फाइनल फैक्टर है हमारे पास नंबर 4, एंटरप्राइज एंड एंटरप्रेन्योर. एंटरप्राइज और एंटरप्रेन्योर ऑब्वियसली connected to the same thing. So we will define enterprise as well as we'll define entrepreneur, ताकि सबको कभी कहीं पे entrepreneur मेंशन करना होता है. Entrepreneur is mostly mentioned in business more, but and then we need to know what is enterprise. तो एक short difference है उनकी definition में. एक ही चीज़ है, basically entrepreneur starts the enterprise, right? So enterprise itself refers to what? So enterprise itself refers to the risk-taking ability, the risk-taking ability which is required to gather all the factors of production in order to produce goods, and services, right? So ये क्या है? रिस्क टेकिंग एबिलिटी. व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय रिस्क टेकिंग एबिलिटी? रिस्क लेने से क्या होता है? आई मीन रिस्क इज इवन जंपिंग ऑफ अ क्लिफ. सही, आप छत से छलांग मार दो, किसी क्लिफ से छलांग मारो, वो भी तो रिस्क होता है ना. तो उससे क्या बिजनेस एक्टिविटी जनरेट होगी? नो, राइट? सो इट्स नॉट दैट काइंड ऑफ रिस्क. इट्स नॉट अ हैजर्डस रिस्क. Basically, it's a risk which involves combining all the factors of production. स्पेशली लैंड, लेबर एंड कैपिटल, ये लाता कौन है? ये एंटरप्रेन्योर लाता है, और एंटरप्राइज के अंदर ये सारे फैक्टर्स गैदर होते हैं एंड इवेंचुअली दे कन्वर्ट इनटू the ability to generate economic activity, which is to produce goods and services, right? So ये enterprise हो गया, giving you a separate definition for entrepreneur as well, which is very simple. Entrepreneur, it's not another factor of production, but I'm just giving you a definition for it. So entrepreneur क्या है? It's basically the person who takes the risk, right? So this is the risk taking ability of a person who combines the factors of production in order to generate economic activity. Right? So this is the risk-taking ability of whom? A person who combines the factors of production in order to generate economic activity. That is an entrepreneur, right? So this is what it is. These are the four factors of production: land, labor, capital, enterprise, or साथ ही साथ जो है entrepreneur, which is part of enterprise. So these are the four factors of production. These are definitions which you can learn and soundly, safely write in your exam. Nothing more than this, right? Moving forward, now we'll be talking about the mobility of factors and the immobility of factors, right? So, it's basically now in the future, if you talk about the economics, they have shifted mobility from this chapter and they've discussed it in another chapter. But wherever it is, you need to know, whenever we talk about factors of production, you need to know about mobility, right? So mobility and immobility of factors of production. So when we talk about mobility of factors of production, mobility of factors of production. So what are we talking about over here? What mobility are we talking about over here, right? So number one, we have, what do you understand by the word mobility? Mobility means ability to move, right? But in economics, as well as I'm sure you must have studied in geography as well, we have two types of mobility, and those refer to, number one, the first one is geographical mobility. So what is geographical mobility? Very simple. This is when factors of production are able to move. Mobility refers to the ability to move. This is when factors of production are able to move from one physical location to another, right? So this is when the FOPs, which are the factors of production, are able to move from one physical location to another. All right. And what is geographical? What is occupational mobility? The other type, right? So number two is occupational mobility. What is that actually? So what is occupational mobility? It's very simple. When the factors of production are able to have multiple uses and are able to do multiple jobs, right? That's occupational mobility. Like some factors only have one use, so they are occupationally immobile. Similarly, some factors have multiple uses, so they become occupationally mobile, right? So occupationally mobile, immobile, ये जो चीज़ें हैं ये this is like very important. So you need to understand which factors have that ability. So if you talk about it, this is when the FOPs have multiple uses multiple jobs at one time. All right, so that is what it is. Right, so geographical mobility, occupational mobility, you guys are clear. Geographical means to have the ability to move from one physical location to another, and occupational means to have multiple uses, different jobs that can be performed by different factors, right? So अब देख लेते हैं कि कौन सा factor of production क्या है, उसके क्या uses हैं, वो occupationally mobile है या नहीं, right? या वो geographically mobile है या नहीं. Let's first talk about land over here, land, right? So land अगर हम बात करें geographically जो है वो क्या होगा, mobile या immobile? It would be geographically immobile, right? So हम लोग यहाँ पे लिख लेते हैं इसको geographically immobile. All right, so it's geographically immobile. Why is it immobile? Let's talk about it. क्यों? क्योंकि भाई land जो है we cannot physically remove the place where we're actually taking out the resources from. So वो उसकी occupational mobility तो बहुत ज़्यादा है. एक land से आप बहुत सारी चीज़ें extract कर सकते हो. एक specific land, especially if you talk about our country, Balochistan is a place where it is, they have a lot of spaces over there which are occupationally mobile. उसमें से बहुत multiple reuses हैं उन resources के, उस land के. उसमें बहुत सारे minerals मिलते हैं हम लोगों को, and that is why we always talk about Balochistan being such a important part of Pakistan, and the way we can use the resources. लेकिन क्या हम वो रिसोर्सेज एक साथ उठाकर कहीं ले जा सकते हैं, कहीं इंडस्ट्रियल एरियाज़ में ला सकते हैं एक साथ उठाकर, उस लैंड जो जनरेट करता है रिसोर्स, लैंड को निकाल के ले जा सकते हैं? तो नो, दैट्स व्हाई इट्स जियोग्राफिकली इमोबाइल. बट एज आई टोल्ड यू, एक लैंड के मल्टीपल बहुत सारे यूजेस हैं, उसके जो रिसोर्सेज हैं उसके मल्टीपल यूजेस हैं. एक लैंड से बहुत सारी डिफरेंट नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज जनरेट होती हैं. सो दैट मेक्स इट ऑक्यूपेशनली मोबाइल बट जियोग्राफिकली इमोबाइल, राइट? सो जियोग्राफिकली इमोबाइल है लैंड और ऑक्यूपेशनली मोबाइल है, ठीक है? मोबाइल. ऑलराइट, सो इफ़ यू टॉक अबाउट वन मोर थिंग, लेबर, ठीक है? तो अब बात करते हैं लेबर की, फिर उसके बाद हम लोग कैपिटल और एंटरप्राइज पे चले जाएंगे. सो व्हाट इज़ लेबर? इज़ इट मोबाइल, इमोबाइल? ये देख लेते हैं, सही है? तो लेबर इज़ एक्चुअली, इट कैन बी बोथ ऑक्यूपेशनली एंड जियोग्राफिकली मोबाइल, बट इन सम सर्कमस्टांसेस इट कैन बिकम इमोबाइल. वो फैक्टर्स मैं आपको बताता हूँ अभी. सो लेबर इज़ बोथ geographically and occupationally mobile. Remember, because labor can have the ability to move physically from one place to another, obviously, and multiple locations. They can go abroad for jobs, एक country से दूसरी country, एक city से दूसरी country, दूसरी city, and then one branch to another branch. They have it, and they can obviously have multiple uses. They can perform multiple tasks. That's multitasking. They can do that, right? So labor हो गया geographic and occupationally mobile, but there are certain reasons which make it immobile. So उसके क्या reasons हैं? Reasons why labor becomes immobile. Why labor becomes immobile, right? तो क्यों labor immobile बनता है? Very simple. Due to the following factors. क्या factors हैं? Let's talk about them very quickly. So number one, family ties, right? What do you mean by family ties over here? So family ties की वजह से a lot of people, they don't want to leave their family, and eventually they don't, choose to go abroad, right? Because, they think that staying with their family is very important, and automatically that stops them from moving to another job abroad. So that makes them geographically immobile, right? So एक तो family ties हो गया. Point number two, any other point is and another point is basically skills, skill issues, right? So skills is a big problem, that if you have less skills available, automatically you will become occupationally immobile, right? तो स्किल से क्या हो जाता है, अगर आपके पास ज़्यादा स्किल्स हैं तो ऑक्यूपेशनली मोबाइल हो जाओगे, कम स्किल्स हैं तो ऑक्यूपेशनली इमोबाइल. इसके अलावा so that obviously skills make you immobile if you have less skills, right? Occupationally. Number 3, language barriers. ठीक है, language barriers हैं हमारे पास. तो language barriers क्या होता है? If you talk about it, if you have language barriers, it can actually make you both occupationally and geographically immobile. क्योंकि आपको कोई लैंग्वेज नहीं आती तो आप मल्टीपल लोकेशंस पे नहीं जा सकते. लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल व्हेन दे आर मूविंग टू चाइना और गोइंग फॉर अ जॉब और वर्क इन चाइना, तो काफ़ी उनको चाइनीज़ की ज़रूरत पड़ती है, इंटरप्रेटर्स की ज़रूरत पड़ती है. सो you know you need to learn, जैसे for example a lot of people moving to Germany for studies as well, they need to learn the job, right? The language basically. And obviously बहुत सारी jobs में भी कुछ specific languages चाहिए होती हैं. So language barriers, if you don't have proper command over certain languages, you will become occupationally and geographically immobile. Number 4 is an important point as well. Now here restrictions from the government, right? Restrictions from the government. ये क्या है? Why would the government put restrictions? Obviously you know very well, especially in this day and age, कि गवर्नमेंट जो है वो रिस्ट्रिक्शन लगाती है दूसरी कंट्री पे ट्रैवल करने पे, उधर उनके लोगों से कम्युनिकेट करने पे या उनसे बिजनेस करने पे. इट्स ड्यू टू पॉलिटिकल रीजंस, मोस्टली वॉर्स हो रही हैं, यू नो, पीपल कंट्रीज आर पुटिंग एम्बार्गोज. एम्बार्गो मीन्स कंप्लीट बैन ऑन ट्रेड फ्रॉम अनदर कंट्री. सो जैसे पाकिस्तान ने इसराइल पे एम्बार्गो लगाया हुआ है कि वी डोंट गेट स्टफ फ्रॉम देयर, वी कैन नॉट इवन ट्रैवल फ्रॉम देयर. हमारे पासपोर्ट पे लिखा हुआ है दिस पासपोर्ट इज़ ओनली वैलिड फॉर, it's not valid for Israel, right? So basically ये restrictions भी labor को immobile बना देती हैं, especially geographically. So these are some points why labor becomes immobile. Finally 2 factors हमारे बाकी हैं, वो है capital and then we have enterprise, right? So enterprise is something similar to labor. Capital जो है, again it is, you can take capital towards, you know, to different locations, especially machinery, motor vehicle, money, all can be transferred to different locations. So capital is geographically and occupationally mobile, right? All right, so ये geographically and occupationally mobile है. और labor और enterprise क्या है? If you talk about occupationally mobile, capital, that can obviously all these type of capital, especially money, motor vehicle, machinery, a lot of capital can actually perform different jobs and has multiple uses. So उससे भी ये क्या बन जाता है? Mobile, right? So occupationally and geographically mobile capital. Again enterprise में entrepreneurs आते हैं, right? So entrepreneurs are similar to labor. They are sometimes, they're mostly geographically and occupationally mobile, right? So again we'll talk about it. They are geographically and occupationally mobile. But again similar to labor, capital भी वो जो points हमने mention किए उन पॉइंट्स की वजह से और कुछ और पॉइंट्स की वजह से जहाँ पे लेट्स से टैक्सेस ज़्यादा होते हैं एंटरप्रेन्योर्स के ऊपर और एंटरप्राइज के ऊपर, तो एंटरप्राइज एंड एंटरप्रेन्योर भी इमोबाइल हो जाता है. जैसे सम कंट्रीज दे हैव अ लॉट ऑफ टैक्स, corporation taxes on business, which makes enterprise difficult and makes them immobile, right? Makes enterprise immobile, right? So that is what it is for factors of production. We talked about enterprise geographically and occupationally mobile, but certain reasons why it becomes immobile is similar to labor. In entrepreneur का भी ये मसला है, language barrier का हो सकता है, restrictions from the government, taxes, कहीं पे subsidy ज़्यादा होती है तो मोबाइल ज़्यादा हो जाते हैं और कम होती है तो, right? So all of these are basically referring to the mobility and immobility of factors of production. Hope you guys are clear about all the concepts of factors of production. The final thing that we have over here is the quality and the quantity of factors of production. और वो क्या चीज़ है? सारे फैक्टर्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन की क्वालिटी एंड क्वांटिटी इंप्रूव हो सकती है. इट्स समथिंग वेरी जनरल एंड स्पेसिफिक. फॉर एग्जांपल लैंड है, लैंड की क्वालिटी बेहतर कैसे हो सकती है? बाय हैविंग मोर वाटर रिसोर्सेज, बाय यूजिंग पेस्टिसाइड्स. उससे क्वालिटी जो है वो लैंड की इंक्रीज़ हो सकती है, इंप्रूव हो सकती है. इसी तरह क्वांटिटी भी इंक्रीज़ हो सकती है बाय प्रिजर्विंग द लैंड एंड बाय making more land which is agriculture. I mean, you cannot make the land, but confining more land which is for agriculture uses and not using it up for other purposes, right? Another important thing over here, labor की quality कैसे improve होती है? Again, education and training. Quantity कैसे improve होती है? If you encourage a lot of immigration into your country, quantity and quality of labor will improve. Another important thing over here, capital. Quantity of capital, how can that improve? क्वांटिटी, इफ़ यू इनकरेज मोर पीपल इन्वेस्टिंग इन योर कंट्री, ऐसी पॉलिसीज़ बनाते हैं तो उससे क्वांटिटी ऑफ कैपिटल बढ़ जाता है. क्वालिटी ऑफ कैपिटल कैसे बढ़ता है? इफ़ यू इन्वेस्ट इन टेक्नोलॉजी. एंड सिमिलरली द लास्ट थिंग विच इज़ एंटरप्राइज entrepreneur. Again, quality of entrepreneur would again be improved similar to labor through education and training, and quantity of entrepreneur enterprise would always be improved by encouragement from the government through policies and favorable working and entrepreneur opportunities, right? So this is what it is for factors of production. I hope you understood. If you don't understand anything, you can write in the comment box, share this video with your friends and try to understand this. And you can always join my classes to have a holistic experience or more detailed experience about for your O levels, A levels, economics and business. Thank you.